Hi guys, thank you for clicking on the link and watching this review video. Now, for those of you that already subscribe to my channel, you'll know that this is currently my 4th review video to date. And why do I make such a big deal of 4? Well, as I'm sure you're already aware, most of the time what I do is I review products that have been brought out and released in recent years in order to celebrate the Fab 4. Today things are slightly different. Today I'm going to be looking at a product that actually came out a number of months ago now, and that product came out to celebrate John Lennon's 80th birthday, which would have been in October last year. Now, the people who hold the keys to his solo work, his solo catalogue, decided that in order to commemorate this date, what they do is that they would completely remix and remaster a number of tracks from his solo output. And what we got is we got an album entitled Gimme Some Truth. Now, Gimme Some Truth, much like Sgt. Pepper, much like the White Album that came out, and obviously Let It Be, which has been delayed for obvious reasons, came out in a number of different editions. You could get it in CD format, you could get a collection that had CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, etc. Now, that's not what I'm about. The best way to listen to the Beatles, the best way to listen to Mr. Lennon himself is to listen to him on vinyl. So I couldn't help but grab myself a copy of this, the deluxe edition of Give Me Some Truth. Now, as you know, on my reviews, I don't like to really kind of, do that whole unboxing thing, that whole unraveling thing. I don't see the point in that. Here it is. I've opened the packaging that it came in, the nice, boring, bog standard cardboard box, and this is what I got. It, of course, was covered in cellophane, nice little sticker on the top. I ripped that off, discarded it because I wanted to see what was inside. Right, so now that that's out of the way, let's have a look inside. Like I said, I've already opened it, etc. And this is what we've got. Let the excitement begin. The first thing you'll notice when you take off the lid is that inside you've got a number of freebies or goodies or whatever you want to call them. First and foremost, you've got what looks like, I'm just counting the pages, a 4-page booklet with a number of images inside of John, of Yoko, and a small bit, not an excessive amount, a small bit of information on the back regarding the tracks themselves. This is lovely, if not just to have inside the record. Just after that, I got myself a little bumper sticker. Give Me Some Truth. Now, if you're like me, you'll probably notice that you'll probably be thinking, I'm not going to use any of these. No, I'm not either. I'm too much of a fan to waste this, to put it on my car, to put a poster up on the wall. I just can't bring myself to do that. If you are one of those people, then well done to you. You're extremely brave. But there you go. There's a bumper sticker. And also, alongside the bumper sticker, you get yourself 2 postcards, one of which is a replica of the postcard that was sent from Lennon himself to Her Majesty the Queen when he was returning his MBE. That's worth a read. I'm sure you've already seen it, but it's a lovely little kind of artifact, if you will, to have inside the box. Lastly, before we get to the records themselves, before I give you a little bit of information, having already listened and reviewed it, the last thing you get is a big, ginormous, double-sided poster. I'm not going to open it out completely, but on one side you've got Lennon standing by himself. On the other, you've got an image of John and Yoko in their bed as part of their bedpiece protest, which we're all very familiar with. Again, not something I'm going to put on the wall. It's going to stay in the box in nice, pristine condition because that's just unfortunately the way in which I roll. Now, let's move on to the records themselves. If you are someone who purchased the kind of solo, the individual record, you'll probably have something that looks a bit like this. However, with this deluxe edition, you get this and you get this in gold and silver. So you've got they're both gatefolds. This is disc 1 and 2, or vinyl records 1 and 2, and vinyl records 3 and 4. You've actually got 8 sides of music here. And that was actually really the reason why I wanted this set. Not for all the bits and pieces that you get. Yes, they're lovely. However, the most important thing for me was ensuring that I got a copy of every single song that had been remastered. Now, I won't go on in too much detail about what the records themselves contain in terms of the content. However, I will mention that this covers kind of a broad range of tracks from John Lennon's solo career, which lasted from anywhere from 1969 to 1980 up until the time of his death. So you've got a number of tracks from various different albums. In fact, all albums in some shape or form are encompassed on this collection. I'll give you a little bit of further information about the sound, the clarity of that sound in a second. However, one of the things I did want to mention is that these albums are presented on 180 gram vinyl. When you put them on your record player, one of the first things you notice is just how flat they are, how little surface noise there is when you're listening to it. So, I mean, it ticks all those boxes from a vinyl lover's perspective straight away. Now, the songs themselves, I do have one negative, which I will mention in a minute, but the songs themselves, just to name but a few, sound wonderful. Now, a couple of the Lennon solo albums, Walls and Bridges, Mind Games, were almost self-produced. Lennon produced those himself, majoritively. One of the things that you notice with a lot of Lennon's solo material is that he uses a hell of a lot of reverb on his voice. Now, Lennon was admittedly not very fond of the sound of his own voice, so would kind of use that to make himself almost feel better about how it sounded to his ear. Unfortunately, what that does, and if you're someone like me who plays about and records their own music, what that does is that almost compresses the sound, the quality of the rest of the instruments across the board. So you end up with a much more muted soundscape. Now, what they've done on a number of these tracks, if not all, is they've brought everything forward again. You can hear bass lines clearer, bass lines you might never have noticed previously. You can hear instruments that weren't there. You can hear harmonies that weren't there. And to name but a few tracks, Mind Games sounds almost entirely different. It's a song I've always liked, I've always appreciated, but suddenly it just sounds wonderful. I know, my favourite Lennon solo track, which some people argue is about his relationship with Mr. McCartney. That sounds, again, like an entirely new song. It's as though they have taken this music and they have gone, right, here's the stamp of approval for 2020. It's as though you are listening to something brand spanking new. Now, I could name so many different songs from this. There are over 40, I think. No, sorry, I tell a lie. 36 tracks, nearly 40, 36 tracks on these 2 double gatefold LPs. And all of them sound absolutely wonderful. My one negative, however, and I'm sure many of you might have picked this up, is that they've put a live track of Come Together just randomly in the middle of one of those albums. I think it's on like side 3. Yeah, side 3, or side C, depending on how you look at it. And it's just smack bang in the middle there. And the problem is with putting a live track, although it's been remastered, you can hear him performing much more clearly than you ever could. The noise of the crowd has been reduced, etc., etc. The problem is with that is that it just sounds so out of place in comparison to everything else, which then sounds polished and perfect. I would have much preferred to have had that track as a kind of final song on the end of the album, or maybe a track that's been put on after a considerable amount of kind of blank space or white noise space. That would have been quite nice as a bonus track almost. The way that they've just kind of thrown it in the mix without really any consideration to the order does make me kind of question things a little bit. However, the final song, the final song on the album, is a song called Gimme. Now, I could name so many different songs from this. There are over 40, I think. No, sorry, I tell a lie. 36 tracks, nearly 40, 36 tracks on these 2 double gatefold LPs. And all of them sound absolutely wonderful. My one negative, however, it is very clear that they've tried to kind of chronologically go from album to album, taking the highlights from each. Another notable kind of song to mention would be Grow Old With Me. The version that of that is absolutely sensational. It starts with Lennon on his piano, one of the famous demo mixes that he did himself, he recorded himself, and it kind of goes in to what is later known as the George Martin mix, and it just sounds absolutely beautiful. Now, finally, my final point about all of this, I'm sure I've banged on long enough, is why should you buy this? Instead of buying the CDs, instead of buying the DVDs, Blu-rays, whatever, the next thing that has flashing lights and an extremely high retail price, why should you buy this? Well, vinyl is where it's at. If you want to hear what I believe, an artist of this quality should sound like, then you need to buy this set. Does it have absolutely everything that you're going to want on there? Well, no, probably not. We're all fans, we're all different, we've all got different ideas of what our best songs are, what our favourite songs are, and what aren't so much our favourites. And then you will find with a collection like this, there will always be a case of both. However, the majority of songs, if not all, sound as though they were made yesterday, and personally I believe it's a fitting tribute to Mr. Lennon for his 80th birthday.